Today, I'm going to show you how to take a picture that looks like this and turn it into a picture that looks like this. And this bird and me were in the exact same spot. The picture taken about a minute apart. I'm going to show you the one trick that can transform your photos to look fantastic. So let's talk about it. Well, I had to come to a spot that was a little more dry. When I came up here to Whittier, Alaska to shoot this video, I was expecting extremely light rain, but once I got through the tunnel and got on this side, it is a heavy, proper downpour here, and it is wet out there. Probably should do a video about shooting in the rain today, but today instead we're gonna do about improving your photography today. And this is one trick that can really transform your photos. So the reason I want to do this video, I had a really good example last week when I was up in the interior of Alaska. It's a video coming very soon, where I had some ptarmigan and some swans and things like that. That were that prime example of the one thing you can change that could just transform those photos. So before I get started, let me just show you a little bit of that trip right now of what we were seeing and what was going on and why this trick was so transformative on the photos I was taking.
This is as good a day as any to start the rebuilding of life. The roads that lay open are many when the old one's gone under the knife. And I can feel the sun on my skin, beginning to thaw from within. Today and not tomorrow, there's no time to borrow. Today is a good day to live. This morning has so clear a light as any to see the horizon in the far. Excuses were 2 for a penny, but they've all gone out the window of this car. And when I feel the wind on my face, all that ever was is a wreck. Today and not tomorrow, there's no time to borrow. Today, well, something's gotta give. Today is a good day. Today and not tomorrow, there's no time to borrow. Today, well, gotta give today is a good day.
So this trip to the interior was fantastic. I had a lot of cool animals and I can't wait to share that video with you. It's going to take me a while to edit this because I was out there for 7 days and it's a lot of footage to go through and to figure out what I want to do with that video. But I wanted to bring this part of it to you because it really can help your pictures. And what we had going on is most mornings when I would head out, or I'd get spots where there weren't many cars, and when I was back here about 3 hours away from the nearest cell service, the nearest town, there was very, very few vehicles I ran into, maybe 1 or 2 vehicles total in like 2 or 3 days in a stretch out there. And I had these ptarmigan, they were just changing colors, which I love. I've yet to capture that until this trip with the dark head and the white body as they start changing their dark pattern. And as I'd capture these birds, I'd get down on there to take the pictures and to get the best picture I could. And so what is that one thing you can change that's going to transfer your pictures from this semi-boring photo to what I think are just phenomenal pictures of these ptarmigan? Well, it's perspective or angle. That's the main thing. We talk about this a lot. Getting angles, making sure your background and your foreground look as appealing as possible. And what makes a foreground and background usually appealing for wildlife photography? Well, it's blur or bokeh. And how do we get blur or bokeh? Is to get things out of focus. So if we have just our bird in focus, nothing else in focus, we get that pleasing stuff. So how does this work? Well, we're gonna use our little duck for an example. So if you'll see here, I'm shooting flat across to the duck. If you have your camera, like you're standing up high, shooting down to the duck, what's gonna happen, you'll notice, is that the background that you're seeing, the angle you have at the center of your lens, is gonna hit the ground really close behind the duck. And if you're doing that, you're seeing things in focus. You're not in blur, so you don't get bokeh, you don't get the nice smooth. No matter what lens you're shooting, a 2.8, 400, f8, whatever, that's gonna be in focus that close behind the bird. Now, if you change your angle, you get more flat with the bird. Now you've got you, subject, and the background's way out there, things that'll be blurred out quite well. And that means you can shoot any lens no matter how slow or fast it is. You can shoot a 2.8 or you can shoot f11. As long as that background's away, you're gonna blur out that background if you can separate it far enough away. And that's what we did in these pictures. So let's open up this laptop, look at some pictures, show you what's going on. So I'm going to show you 2 things. One's going to be this scenario with the angle and perspective, how to get that. And then secondly, later in the video, I'm going to show you a more advanced technique on the same subject. So you saw in that video a little bit of how the roads looked there when I was out in the interior of Alaska. And this image right here is when I first got out and shot this bird, just a safety shot, just to kind of shoot it and start walking towards it. And what am I trying to do here? Well, I'm going to try to close the distance the best I can in this bird until it starts to move, because I want it to be right there in the center of that road. And we'll talk about in the advanced step on this later, why I wanted the bird in the center of the road. So I'm trying to walk up this bird slowly to keep him calm and to get into the spot where I'm going to actually change one thing to make this image look so much better. So I'll advance these pictures a little bit and show you what it looked like. Actually, let me start off at the beginning when I first saw the bird. And it was here, he was flying in. Let me zoom in for giggles for you. There he is flying in. So I see him on the right side of the road. He flies to the middle. Then I wait for him to settle. So now I've got him here. And now I just sit for a bit, let him settle, let him get used to me, let him do his thing. Good times. Then I start slowly advancing on the bird. I change my exposure a little bit here and I walk up a little bit. And I'm just kind of taking shots as I'm getting closer just to see how big the bird is in frame. So a lot of times when I'm approaching a bird, I'll take my shot at just looking at a shot and I'm just looking at, am I close enough to the bird? Is the bird big enough to frame for me to get good detail until the bird starts to want to move or something? So I just keep advancing on him for a bit. And I get to about here, and this is about when he's starting to cluck a little bit, make his little beautiful little noises that I love that ptarmigan make. So I feel like I've gotten as close as I can. So this is the shot if you're standing up right here, what this looks like. And this is a shot that most people get. One, because either the bird just leaves too quickly, you don't have time to change your angle and your perspective. But with me, this bird would stay where it was. And you'll notice where my background is right behind the bird. And here, there's where I'm starting to blur out back here. and see I've got a lot of blur, a little bit of bokeh. It's not a horrible shot if you zoom in, right? If you zoom in like that, change your crop, it's not a horrible picture, right? But it's just bleh, kind of boring. And if you look at your blur by his feet, it's right about here. And then behind him, it's right about here. My hands are getting a little cold, so it's hard for me to move this trackpad, but I want to do these videos out here in the wild because one, I love listening to these birds singing around me. And it's just pretty out here. Rather than be in the house in the studio, I like to get outside. So what do we do to make this picture better? What's that one big perspective and angle? Well, for starters, you remember the hill behind this bird? It's back up here. You see that nice top of the ridge, that right behind him? I want to use that as my background. I want to shoot up that hill where I get that white and blue and gold from the sky and the mountains and all that stuff. That's what I want behind the bird. I don't want all this gravel that I have behind him that's just gray. I don't want that. So what do? Well, you see me do it in all my videos. I'm getting low. I'm changing the angle and perspective. And remember, we talked about our duck example earlier, that if we're shooting down, our background's right here, but if we can drop our angle and shoot this way, now we've got all that separation of the background and we're gonna get bokeh and blur. And in this case, the bird's sitting at an angle like this up the hill, and the top of the hill curves off. So now instead of having just road and maybe some trees back here, we've got road and sky behind us. That's what we want. So now I get low, I get on the ground, and the closer you can get your barrel of the lens to the ground, the more you're gonna blur. We'll talk about that a little more in the advanced section about blur and how low and what angle you wanna get at. So what is the result of that after we got low? Well, it's this. This is the image we get. Once we drop low, look at the background behind the bird, cuts down to his chest, which you want. And then we look at a couple more images as he stepped a little more to the left. And this is the image we get by getting low. That massive transformation from that to this. That's all it is. The bird's in the same spot even. You notice the bird looks closer than he is here? It's the exact same thing. It's by when we change our perspective to get low, the bird even looks larger in the frame than he did when he was here. That bird's in the exact same spot that it was. Of course, you notice my first shot, I'm a little too low. I've got my angle a little more and I corrected it here. But that's what you get when you get low. So you get that bird centered. And what happens when you get low and you get that barrel of the lens on there, this kind of more advanced technique, the closer you get the barrel of the lens, the more blur you're gonna have between you and your subject. And then real quickly, it'll fall off. So you'll notice, and this bird will zoom in real quick by his feet. You'll see this little line right here. That's the focal plane where the bird is, that few inches that it's in focus. So you get this blur here, and you get the blur real quickly behind there. You get very little of the road in focus anymore. So once again, you go from this, where his feet are, to this, where his feet are. Such a drastic change. Another thing you'll notice is, see how gray everything looks? But once I drop low, look how brown it looks. And we're at the exact same exposure. If you look up here, my shutter speed is 1250, and my ISO is 125. F4, 560 millimeters. We go look at this picture, check it out. Exact same thing. 1250, 125 on the ISO. Not a bit of difference, not anything. These images are not edited. I'll show you. You look at the develop module. Look, there's nothing edited here whatsoever on either one of these images. That's literally the difference in perspective and angle, how we'll change the colors, how we'll change everything about the image. The distance the subject looks bigger, the blur, everything looks fantastic. That's all you have to do. Now, we're going to show you a swan example here in a minute about getting low and angle of perspective here in a minute, but I want to talk about the advanced feature, the advanced trick on this bird here. So you notice I've got my bird on this road, and you'll notice in the ditches on both sides, and you see in the video clips, I may be showing you one right here, you've got brush on both sides of the ditches on the road, this brown brush. Now, my advanced technique is I wanted that bird in the middle of the road because I wanted my background to be the blue. I wanted the blue and the mountains on top of that hill. And I didn't want the brown. Now, I'm trying to keep that bird in the center. So how do I keep that bird in the center? This is another advanced technique. Well, the bird's towards the left side of the road, so my trick was to get towards the left side of the road, so if he did walk, he's gonna walk to the middle of the road, which he did do. And we'll see what that bird does if the bird walks to the right. So this bird, if you'll notice, on the left side, you'll see that brush of the ditch. But as he started walking to the right, this is what happens with your background. You see the brown back there? Nothing wrong with it. I want it all blue, but it looks really good. My exposure's way under here because when he went from left to right, my light changed a little bit. But that's fine because I could brighten it up in post. As the bird walks more to the right, you see what happens? Fine. Actually, the bird gets more lit because of the sun, but my backgrounds start to change. Now, I feel like a little dark, so I changed my exposure a little bit, but look at the difference in that real quickly. I like it better down, but let's look at our depth of field again. Look at that little thin line that's in focus at his feet. Everything else is blurred out. And that's why we change our angle, and that's why we get low. And we'll just kind of step through these pictures a little bit, looking at them just for giggles. Now, the reason I was talking about the advanced technique, if I keep them in the middle of the road, remember what our image looked like? It looked like this, which I really love. Nothing wrong with these images over here, but the background is different because the bird has a brown head, a little lighter exposure of the background looks better, and it blends in. It doesn't have that separation, that pop. And that's why I wanted to keep the bird there. It's why I wanted to try to get him at first in the middle of the road instead of the side of the road. And that's kind of your advanced tip because this brush behind the bird is closer to being focus. And so that's why you can tell there's trees there as opposed to some of this other blur on the left where you can see it's just kind of brown. You're not sure if that's ground or if that's trees. Really cool. Now let's look at another example of this bird on the side of the road versus in the road. All right, example 2, the same type of thing, same scenario. Here's the ptarmigan when I first find it. Here's what it's like when I'm shooting down on it. This can be the exact same angle. Now I get down, I get low, look at the angle. All I did was get low. The road drops off on the right side. I'm shooting across the road this time, different time of day. And that's the difference in the pictures. Going from that by shooting down on the bird, getting my angle better by shooting there. And I didn't get exactly completely down on the bird. I kind of got low because I was in kind of a little lower than the bird in this, so I didn't have to get all the way to the ground, but I changed my angle until I got the blur right and the background and foreground. Another example here, spruce grouse. Shooting down on the bird, and I'm shooting down the road this time, a little bit right of the road, and the road's kind of like this, so I'm shooting down kind of at that angle. Here's the spruce grouse. Beautiful bird. Zoom in to look at his little head. Look at that little, got his little crest up. Oh, beautiful bird. But shooting down at it, and then I get low. I start getting lower. I start looking at my lens till I get on the ground close enough. And I didn't get all the way on the ground, but close to it this time. And there's what I get. Completely different perspective. Here it is up high, same bird, just turn the other direction. And there is a result of getting lower versus sitting higher up on the bird. Drastically changes your image, majorly changes your images. We'll look at a bird in a tree this time. This is a gray jay or Canada jay, whichever you want to call it. Cute bird, I love them. So he's in the tree up here, and he's standing on a limb. He's got the limb kind of knocked over, the top one that's always tall, kind of knocked over a little bit. You see it in front of him, and he kind of let go and went up. When it went up, this limb, this piece right here, went right here in front of the bird. So it kind of ruins the shot. So what do? Well, I rotate around a little bit, and I get it where now that stalk is down by his feet, and I've got a better perspective on the angle of the bird. So you go from this, where it's like this, you change your angle, now it's like that. Just that much can change the perspective on your bird. So it's not always about getting on the ground, it's about changing your perspective and your angle. So if I could walk around, and actually I went up a little bit on a hill that was kind of going like this with this J, as opposed down below it. So I was down below where the branch is in the bird's body and face. I move around the right a little bit, it's still in its body a little bit, but most of its head and feathers are exposed right there. None of these images are edited, so that's just the way they look. Here's another example of getting a bird at the right angles. You'll see this bird's going down the ditch. These aren't great shots, but it's kind of the same concept where I don't have to get low, but if I walk a little bit around, I can get him like that. I just changed my angle, same bird, he's in the same ditch. I just walked around to the right a little bit more until I got the angle right, and there you go. I really don't like the image. You can crop in and make it look better, things like that, but that's not the crop I would do. But again, by changing my angle, I separated that background. See how the background's real close to the bird, and I need a gap in here for the bokeh. There you go. To the swans, this is a more advanced technique here. So these swans are on a pond, beautiful scene. They got really close to me. 400 millimeters was even too much lens out there. If you got really low, flat to the water, I would lose one thing, and that is the reflection of the swan. I'd get it, but it'd be really long, but really blur. So what I want to do is I want to get up a little higher. I want to get low, but I want to get not so low where I lose that reflection. I get the reflection looking good. So by getting low, but not all the way to the water, you get this with your reflection. So what you're looking for in this situation is change your perspective to lower, because again, if you're shooting down on it, it's not going to look good because the water is going to be in focus behind the bird. I didn't really get any examples of shooting straight down the bird on this, but as I get lower, I'm looking at that reflection on top of my blur, and I get as low as I can without starting to stretch that reflection out, because you get flat with your barrel on, that reflection is going to be a blur stretching to you. And you get low, get this where now back side of my pond's blurred out and the front side's not. This one here is a little higher in my angle, not bad, but I'm trying to capture that mound a little bit too. But with your swans, that's what you get. So you don't always want to go all the way to the water. Sometimes you want to get just close enough where you get the reflection and the blur in your shot like these. And that's what you do there. So that's the simple thing about changing your perspective and your angle to get your shots. Okay, let me show you a little footage of that picture I showed you a while ago with this ptarmigan here. And what you see in this video, you see the ptarmigan here, you see that bit of grass to the right. The grass is actually a little blurred out right here. But that's what it was when I was standing up shooting that bird. Now let's look at it like when I got lower. Very next thing, there's what the footage looks like and the picture. You saw the pictures a minute ago. We went from this grass over here to that. I haven't moved at all. All I did was get my butt on the ground, get my barrel of the lens right on the ground. I went from this bit of footage to this. Drastically changed it. Grass looks, frame grass on the right, ptarmigan on the left, looks great. Beautiful male ptarmigan with his nice red eyebrows. They're gonna go mating here very soon. That's why he's got his eyebrows all fruffled up there, attracting the ladies. But that's the difference in that on those shots. And back to the first example we had, here's the bird in the middle of the road sitting there. And then when I got low, this is what it looks like. And as soon as I get low every time, especially, first thing out of my mouth is, oh wow. Isn't he beautiful? Just amazing. Other examples where you don't have to get low, but you change perspective, is this footage right here of this guy. This is what it looked like if you'd be shooting down on him. If you get your angle just right, that's what it looks like. I love the little calls. But that's the difference in it. Here's another example. When I first saw the bird, he's here. I let him walk to the left a little more, and that's what it looks like when I'm up high looking at him, seeing what he's gonna do. And then right next, I get low, and I get this. Just incredible. So much better with the angle and all that. When I get to post, I can even change the white balance a little bit, warm it up or cool it down, whichever I want to do. And there we go, flying off. That is cool. So real quickly, the difference in the swans. Let's go back to those guys real quick. Here's the swan where I'm shooting down on the swan. I'm standing up, shooting down. Actually, I'm quite high. And that's what it looks like when you're shooting down on them. It's not horrible, but as soon as you can get low, this is what it looks like. Major difference. Here's really low with the pond behind it. Looks great. What you'll notice though, you notice how this head stretches out the lower I get when I'm higher? This is running the wrong way, but you can see what the example is when I get the proper height on there. That symmetry looks a lot better. And that's what you're looking for, that symmetry on your angle. Same thing on a plover here. Here is me up high, what it would the video footage will look like. And there's what it's like when you get low. Much more drastic when you can shoot high or shoot low. Of course she's laying down here, but this is high and that's low. Just major difference in perspective there. So to wrap it all up, to talk about it is, to improve your photos, make them much, much better, is always look at your background. How do you extend from your subject to make your background farther away? If your background's closer, more is going to be in focus. But it's like with the example of this plover here, if you extend that background, you can use this sky and the blur to give you more color. And by getting low, those colors are going to pop with that plover. You can get more of the blues in the sky and things like that on the edge of that horizon. You want to use that. So in this case, I'd walked around more looking for that blue, because one way I shot had gray clouds, another way I shot I had brush and mountains, but if I got to one angle, I could see blue sky, and that's when I moved around here to try to get that blue behind this bird. Perspective and angle, because I could walk all the way around this plover. But that's what you need to do, is elongate that background behind the bird. Sometimes it's shooting down a hill, sometimes it's shooting up a hill, sometimes shooting flat. How do I get that angle? If my brush is real close here, but it's not going that direction, but is this direction, then I'd walk around the bird this way to shoot down that way. And that's what you do to improve your pictures. I hope this helped, guys. I hope this was a good help to you on how to get better perspective and angle to make a more fantastic picture. But to go from that ptarmigan, from this shot here where I'm shooting down where the background's too close to the bird, to dropping down to elongate that background, shoot up that hill to capture that blue, beautiful sky, doesn't look like the same bird, doesn't look like the same area, doesn't look like the same picture. Just incredible. But that's why you'll see me and Heidi and Cassie, the people I shoot with, always getting our raincoats on, our rubber gear on, and getting low and getting into that mud, because we're trying to get that separation angle that makes that picture more pleasing. But that's it, guys. That's how to improve your photos. I hope this helped. Look for here in the future this video coming about my 7 days up in the interior of Alaska. I had a blast. Caribou, swans, tons of different birds, porcupines, all kinds of stuff, and fantastic trip. And as always, guys, until next time, get outside and go run that shutter.
My heart